Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another broadcast. Today I wanted to talk about Clone Conspiracy number 4, along with a little bit of The Amazing Spider-Man number 23, or more specifically, how once again Dan Slott bit off more than he could creatively chew, and then realized halfway through the meal, oh crap, I need to find some way to finish this thing. Alright guys, I'm going to try and lightning round the recap so I could get to the commentary as soon as possible, but there's a lot to cover here. When we last left off, Peter Parker told the newest clone of Ben Reilly, aka the Jackal, that he wanted to hear more of his big plans involving New You. The two men are in a van with Uncle Ben's coffin in the back seat, and Jackal explains how his network of well-connected individuals, all with loved ones they'd like to see alive again, helped him orchestrate everything. They eventually arrive at New You's south entrance, where Peter is brought to a "this is your life" dreamscape called Haven. The Green Goblin and Hobgoblin fly through the air like two kids chasing each other, Lizard plays soccer with his son, and characters like Ned Leeds breathe new life, albeit as clones, and Jackal even makes a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory reference in ASM number 23. And speaking of The Amazing Spider-Man, the most important point to take from that issue is that Peter and Gwen privately have a talk about what it means to be a clone, whether or not she should be able to consider herself the Gwen, and what it all means to their friendship going forward. She makes the case that she is not a clone and impulsively kisses Peter in an attempt to convince him to accept her. He rebuffs the advance, puts on his mask, and as he walks out the door, she says that he doesn't just wear the mask to protect his loved ones. We skip back to the Clone Conspiracy, where Peter and Ben continue to debate his whole plan, and it's brought up that only Uncle Ben remains to be cloned. Peter concludes that not bringing Ben back was done on purpose, and that Ben never had any intention of doing so because Uncle Ben would say that it was wrong. He says that Ben Reilly has all the means and power, but no responsibility. Ben snaps his fingers, orders the clones to kill Peter Parker, and walks off. Now, what I haven't yet said to make this review as smooth as possible is that back at New You's lab, Doc Ock has been working on a way to stop clones from breaking down. He reunites with Anna Maria Marconi, who wants nothing to do with him, although she is impressed when he essentially figures out that some form of radiation or radio waves must have something to do with the problem. Jackal then comes in shortly after the chaos with Spider-Man begins. He wants an update, and when Anna says she knows how to stop the cellular breakdown altogether, he is thrilled. He tells her that the proto-clone, with its perfect body and zero defects, could be hers if she is correct. She is insulted because she says she is already perfect. Note, I'm glad that Marvel writers are admitting that they now create, quote, perfect female characters who are willing to admit it. But I digress. Anyway, Doc Ock also takes offense and vows to kill everyone. Spider-Gwen pops in to save Kane, but in the meantime, a loud radio wave is broadcast through the building that starts taking all the clones out. The audio is also broadcast on Fact Channel, which kills all the other civilians who have had the New You procedure. Anna is touched by Doc Ock, and it becomes obvious the contagion is spreading just like all the other realities Kane came from. Tune in to Clone Conspiracy number 5 to find out how it all unfolds. Okay, so here's the deal. Do you remember that one kid when you were young who used to make up games and then randomly change the rules in the middle of it all? That's Dan Slott. The clone of Ben Reilly has been shown to be a genius. He thought of everything and, when it comes to Peter, has gone out of his way to convince the guy that he is sincere. When Peter was beating the tar out of him, he just stood there and took it in a previous issue. But out of the blue, Peter says that Uncle Ben would not go along with this cloning procedure, and with a snap of the fingers, Ben decides to have Peter killed. What? Why? He literally dug up Uncle Ben's body, but Peter says he never had any intention of cloning the guy. Why wouldn't Jackal just say, "Why don't we just clone him right now if you don't believe me?" Why would he not, like Gwen Stacy, tell Peter that deep down he doesn't want to be happy? Why would he not say that if he wanted to, he could have cloned the so-called never knew you version of Ben and tortured him until he agreed to go along with the plan, and that Peter would have never been the wiser? All evidence up until this point indicates that Dan Slott's Jackal would not fly off the handle and order Peter Parker's death. But that is exactly what he did because the event needs to end soon. And punches and fights and, I guess, things. It's like the story just got so big and bloated, like Doc Ock in his spandex suit, that Dan Slott was like, well, guess I need to bring this to a climax now, huh? Okay. If you want to know exactly what is wrong with this, then all you have to do is take what the characters say at face value. When Jackal likens the story to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it's true. Instead of a Spider-Man story, you're getting some sort of silly Peter Parker and the Chocolate Factory tale. When Electro says she feels like she's watching, quote, the worst telenovela, just know that Dan Slott is trying to negate criticism by acknowledging it before it happens. But that still does not change the fact that you really are getting Spider Novella. And don't get me started on a scientist like Anna Marconi getting insulted by the fact that another scientist called her dwarfism, a legitimate medical condition, a defect. That would be like a blind man getting insulted if a scientist said he could restore the patient's sight. Anna might say, I'm comfortable in my own skin, thank you very much, but she would not say she is, quote, perfect. How weird is that? Anyway, I could go on, but the underlying point is this. The clone conspiracy was a story that probably should not have seen the light of day, but Dan Slott was able to convince his buddies to go along with it. Unfortunately, fans are the ones who have to deal with the fallout as he rushes to wrap things up and, in the process, make his main villain act completely out of character after months of setup. In short, the clone conspiracy got too big and too convoluted, and as a result, it is creatively collapsing under its own weight. I will obviously read this through to the conclusion, but I do not suggest getting back issues to anyone who is on the fence about spending their hard-earned cash. That's about it for now, but as always, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Sound off on the clone conspiracy, the Amazing Spider-Man, and Dan Slott's writing. And as always, if you liked what you've seen here, then head on over to douglasernst.blog for more coverage just like this. See you next time.